record. Okay, we are recording, and I'm going to hit live, and here we go. 3, 2, 1. We are live, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. For the first time since 2011, 9 years or 900 years ago, depending on how you're looking at time now, the Vancouver Canucks head into an opportunity to eliminate an opponent from the playoffs or the qualifiers, as the Vancouver Canucks defeated the Minnesota Wild 3-0 in Game 3 of the playoff qualifier. We are here to recap it, and welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You're watching live on Facebook, and we will have a audio. If you're also listening on audio on Spreaker, that's great. You can follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey. Like us on Facebook, the Hockey Podcast, as well as subscribe on Apple, Google, iHeart, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcast. So we'll take your comments and questions if they come up. But I'm here with Tyler. Tyler, how are you?
Good, Kevin. It's always a very positive day when the Canucks win in the postseason. So, I actually didn't realize that stat of 2 consecutive postseason wins, being the first there since 2011. But, that's good. It's a sign of progress for a team that, I think Canuck fans should be really happy about right now.
Yes. And for some people that I think that we're pleasantly surprised with. But where were you watching the game?
I was trying to kind of squeeze it in between work. It was a work day for me. We had to listen to some of the beginning of the game on radio and then take a little bit of a longer lunch break to catch what turned out to be the best part of the game, the second period. The Canucks just really finally breaking through there after a very tight game with the Wild and then really holding it down.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is some of us had a very difficult situation. They had to go outside in plus 30 degree, grab a couple of beers on their patio, just kind of lay back, kick back their feet, and watch a hockey game. I mean, tough slummings, Sean, huh? But how did you survive that sort of hockey watching? How did you do it?
Oh, well, to be fair, I wasn't kicked back. I'm way too into it. I was leaning forward on my knees, like watching it pretty intensely. But luckily we had an absolute beautiful day here in Calgary, and to make sure that I'm a very loud watcher of hockey games. If anyone's watching or listening that know me, they know that. But so in a way to take that loudness away, so that I'm not disrupting Heidi, who is working from home and actually had a meeting during this game, I took it outside, and on the deck underneath in the nice umbrella with my Chromecast, and it was able to stream the game onto a TV out there, and that was There's a lot worse things you could be doing than watching hockey outside and enjoying a Canucks win.
Doesn't this? I was thinking about this today. It's true, but this feels like the World Cup, in a way, doesn't it? It kind of reminds me a little bit about, like, you set your time, you have your plan, you plan your day around kind of the games you want to watch. It's all day. It's kind of neat. It kind of reminds me of the World Cup soccer.
It is neat, and of course you're talking about all the games in a small number of venues. There is no travel, all of that. Yeah, definitely. This tournament format has that feel to it. I was going to make the comparison of the early part of the baseball postseasons like this too, with 4 games in a day on some of the days, and you've got these afternoon games, and you're trying to get your lives to work around the games, and it was definitely a different thing to be trying to figure out how to take in a playoff game and during the week, during the day, and not only during the day, but an 11:30 started. Chris Cuthbert on the telecast had to say good morning to Canuck fans out in Vancouver.
Yes. Oh, I've loved him, by the way. He's been something else. So.
Oh, you got a couple of his classics in there today too.
Yes.
The icebreaker, and did you see that on the Staylock save as well, which was a great save.
Yes. I titled this video "Thanks a Motte," because 9 block shots, led the way penalty killing. He had over 6 minutes of penalty killing. The bottom 6 and the key star for me, the number one star. I mean, we'll get to some of the other superstars of this game, but the penalty killing and the bottom 6 in combined, I thought, were the reason that the Canucks won this game. This was one of those. This was the first period. It was very clear to me this was going to be a boxing match, and I thought it was going to be like it was very clear it was going to be a 2-0, 3-0 game, and I thought whoever was going to score first, I think, was going to shut the other team down, and it was because of that penalty killing that I think the Canucks are where they are.
Oh, definitely. Tyler Motte and it was Tyler Motte, Brandon Sutter up front, both over 6 minutes in shorthanded time on ice, and then Alex Edler and Chris Tanev just. They both played over 8 minutes on the penalty kill today, and just were warriors blocking shots. Like you said, Tyler Motte had actually 7 block shots, and then between the two, Edler and Tanev, they had 9, and it was a treat to watch, because not only were they blocking shots, but they were forcing the play to the outside. They were covering up shooting lanes, making it tough for the Wild to create offense on that power play, despite having 7 penalty kills to go through.
For me, if you look at the 3 games of the series, there's been just a really encouraging progression. It started off with nervous, tentative, slow start, struggling to make passes in the first game, to the second game, breaking through early, but then, got a little scary there at the end. Ended up being a 4-3 game, had to deal with the Wild pushing back, and then today really clamping it down, not giving Minnesota much chance at all. And we talk about the penalty killing. There's a lot of discussion around these qualifying series about officiating and how tightly the games are being officiated. But look, if your penalty kill is dependable, it's probably not a bad thing that the games are tightly officiated, because even on the power play, even if the Canucks don't score, that's momentum sapped away from the other team. So if you've got a dependable penalty kill like the Canucks showed today, I say, call it tight, because that's not good for the other team by the looks of it.
I'm going to let Sean respond to that.
I'm at the point where the officiating is the officiating, and yes, I'll complain about it during the games, but that's what most fans do anyways.
Yeah.
But you just got to call it. There's penalties that were chintzy, ticky-tacky, but they're going both ways.
Yeah.
The slash on that Greenway took that led to the power play that led to the first goal. That was you could if you're a Wild fan, you could say that was super light and everything, but it's just I don't know. It is what it is at this point, and you just have to fight through it. And the Canucks are now, and that's fantastic to see. The only real issue I have with the officiating today was the Hartman hit on Pettersson. That should have been a 5 in a game, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, that's kind of a bigger issue with NHL officiating, as far as the referees just not wanting to go there and then have their call overturned or deemed heavy-handed or whatever. And now they do have the tool of video review now for those calls, but I mean Petey was in a pretty vulnerable position as far as I'm concerned on that one. But give him credit, he gets up.
Yeah, and then Miller stepped in. This time Miller stepped in to fight him as well. And I think the thing that was so impressive about today was the penalty killing and the bottom six. I mean, who would have thought Loui Little Things Ericksson would be shutting down Kevin Fiala? If I predicted that during this series, I think that people would have been wondering how much either am A, drinking, B, smoking, C, am I an idiot? But that's actually what's happened.
Well, Kevin, the answer to that question is Travis Green knew that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is quite something for the Canucks in terms of depth. They've had to go now as far deep as Zach McEwen, and he steps in and looks fine, in his debut and playoff debut, I should say. And Loui Eriksson's been solid, and he's been the whipping boy all season, and he was parked for a long stretch. I think at one point, Sean, 9 games in a row. And he steps in and is not just some AHL call-up where you're hoping it's just going to work out. You can count on what they've got out there right now. So hopefully injuries don't continue to pile up for the Canucks. But, boy, it's encouraging to see that when a few guys go down, the other guys step in and get the job done.
Yeah, losing Tyler Toffoli and Adam Gaudette really does change the look of the Canucks. But when you can bring in Loui Eriksson and if you fancy stats or whatever, you on natural stat trick, you can look at how players did against the other players they played against. And in 3 minutes and 49 seconds of ice time against Loui Eriksson, Kevin Fiala managed 1 shot attempt on net, and then but allowed 8. And this is the Kevin Fiala who's averaging 6, 8, 12 shot attempts per game. So the fact that they're able to find a way they found someone who seems to be able to control him a little bit, at least up until this point, is very, very good for the Canucks going into tomorrow's game.
Yeah. The Sutter as well, Brandon Sutter, another guy that's been coming a little bit of a whipping boy here. He had a pretty strong game. Jake Virtanen, I actually was very impressed with Jake Virtanen. I thought, especially in the first period, he threw his weight around, and Antoine Roussel with that goal, sparking out of nowhere, just came in, blew past Brad Hunt. I mean, you could see the camera actually looked at his face, and he just couldn't believe that Roussel blew by him like that, but he did. That bottom six allowed Pettersson, Besser, Hughes, and the big guys to play the game with a little bit more freedom today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Wild made a couple lineup changes today. They brought in Nico Sturm in replacement for Ryan Donato, and then they put together a very beefy line of Jordan Greenway, Joel Eriksson Ek, and Marcus Foligno, in hopes that they could match it up against the Pettersson line and just grind them down. And I think 5-on-5 they were kind of able to do that at times, but the speed of that line was able to at time, but other times the speed of the Lotto line was able to capitalize on that. But when you take that many penalties and you can't necessarily match up, and you've got all that I think that kind of played into the Canucks' favor at that point, though.
Yeah, for sure. Just switching topics a little bit. One of the things I put on Twitter just before coming on here, takeaways from the game, a team unity / grit. That's not just, the fact that Miller went after whoever it was. Again, I'm having trouble remembering that.
Hartman.
Hartman that ran Pettersson from behind. Thank you. And then there was when Fiala bumped Markstrom, and then you had a response there, and Brandon Sutter absolutely filling in Fiala in the corner. But beyond that, beyond the sort of the displays of sticking up for each other, we talked about shot blocking earlier. I mean, the commitment from everybody, top to bottom, forward, defense, to take away those shooting lanes and those scoring opportunities. That looked like a gutsy playoff performance out there, and you hope that trend continues now into Game 4. Obviously, that's going to be very tough for the Canucks with Minnesota desperate to keep their season going.
Yeah, I mean, you look at even in the third, and I would like to take this moment to pick on the Oilers. Compare this to what happened to the Oilers last night, where the Canucks were up, and how they protected this lead. I mean, yes, there was a couple of breaks for sure. If Ericksson knows which has the proper size of his stick on the ice as opposed to the butt end of his stick, it's probably 1-1, but that didn't happen. But Chris Tanev made a puck beat Markstrom, puck goes towards the ice, and then Chris Tanev swats it away. It's just it seems like those little things. Sorry, I feel like that should be a drinking game now for us. The little things that the Canucks were able to do to protect the lead, I thought it showed some maturity, for sure, and desperation.
Oh, it totally did. And that's the thing that Travis Green's been trying to just ingrain in the players. And that's why he likes Loui Ericksson so much, Brandon Sutter so much, is that they do the little things well. And they're able to the details that makes players coaches' favorites are what win games in playoffs. So we saw that today. We saw that why he loves Tyler Motte so much, why he loves Brandon Sutter so much, and why that both those guys are going to be mainstays in the lineup going forward. And just even if that is at the expense of more offensively prolific players such as Adam Gaudette and or Jake Virtanen, just because they are the players that you're going to win games with. They're going to sell their bodies to make sure that they can stop the puck from going in their own net, and then you rely on your top players to score.
And they did that today. I mean, there's Besser and Petey scoring. Besser his second of the playoffs, and Petey with his first postseason goal to really put the game away at 3-0 there late. Just a complete performance from the Canucks. We talked a little bit about penalties earlier. I mean, there's a few avoidable ones there. I mean, the Roussel bump in the goalie behind the net was avoidable. I mean, those are the kinds of plays that you're going to beat yourselves with if you keep that up. But beyond that, I mean, Canucks are finding their way, and Minnesota's trending in the opposite direction. They looked pretty frustrated by the end of this one, seemingly out of answers, and had home ice advantage too for this one. So we'll see what they come back with in Game 4. I would be surprised if they keep that one stacked up line going again. But if the Canucks can just keep doing what they're doing and make Alex Stalock look ordinary, I think they're in good shape to advance.
Well, first of all, before I ask about the Minnesota goaltending, we'll get to Markstrom in a second here. I did not know. One of the things that I learned, we'll have to bring back the Soda Pod on to learn a little bit more. There is clearly a lot of acting schools in the St. Paul, Minnesota area. And I think that at least that Andy Stalock has been taking a few acting classes. And he's learned, specifically one of the things that he's learned is what happens when you get shot. Because he finds ways to go down. It's a fantastic performance. I must applaud him for his diving, his acting capabilities has been something else. And yes, that was not the best penalty, but Stalock has found a way to make those look a little bit worse than they actually have.
Well, that's the key there, Kevin. There's embellishing, and then there's making sure that the referee saw it, right? And Stalock's pretty clever with that.
Even Marcus Foligno on the Pettersson interference penalty, I mean, he's down, and it's like, oh, is he okay? And then all of a sudden, he's just skating nicely to the bench. It's like, wow. I'm like, must be some good theater schools going out there, acting school.
Well, I mean, just to use the beer league example, you get a little bump near the boards. I mean, you don't have to, follow the ice and flop around. I mean, that's just overacting embellishment. But, if you whack the boards hard and, make it noisy for the referee, that might trigger the penalty call.
Yeah,
right?
It's fair. I'm just saying. I
mean, I can't speak for other referees. I know for me, it's all about gut feel out there. So, sometimes stuff like that sends the arm in the air, and you might be thinking about it after it's in the air, thinking like, maybe that wasn't that strong a call. You're committed at that point, though.
I understand where you're coming from. Stalock has done that a couple of times in this.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Stalock's good at initiating the contact and then falling over. Because that's what happened with the Roussel one behind the net. Roussel was not even looking at Stalock. He was looking at the puck, and Stalock actually he leaned into the contact, and then it's Roussel. He's gonna win that, and that's what that and it. I understand why they're called. I still think it's frustrating as a fan, but I understand why they're called. But yeah, it's like I said, the officiating is officiating, and you just got to battle through it and find a way to make the key kills. And the Canucks did today, and that's fantastic.
Can only hope for consistency. I didn't feel game one was very consistent as far as the officiating went, but the last couple of games, I don't think most Canuck fans can have that complaint. It can be frustrating at times due to the lack of flow, and it seems like they're too involved. But I mean, today, I think it worked in the Canucks' advantage as much as they were in the penalty box.
Yeah, I think so too. And this felt the most. This game felt the most playoff out of the three. I thought this was as playoff games go. This felt like a playoff game to me.
I think that was just more the temperature of the game with the Hartman hit and then all the scrums in front of the net. It just had that playoff. You're battling for every inch feel to it for sure.
So what percentage do we think Devin Dubnyk is playing tomorrow? Are we absolutely convinced it's Stalock?
Yeah.
I think they continue with Stalock. I don't think he had a bad game. The Canucks just exposed some of his weaknesses today. That's it.
They made a big save on the Horvat thing, but yeah.
Kevin, the third goal was a 2-on-1 with Pettersson shooting. That's not much chance for most goalies. The blown play there that resulted in the Roussel breakaway. I mean, that one's hard to hang that one on the goalie. So, and then the way he's played the rest of the series, it's Alex Stalock's net at this point.
Yeah.
And then from the other side of this is I'm impressed by Kevin Fiala. I really am. I think this is a guy that I think might be, if we're going to the Olympics, if everything all goes well, I think Kevin Fiala should be a guy that is considered at the very least.
Well, he's in Switzerland. He's on the team.
Okay. But isn't he part Canadian too, though?
No.
Over the only Swiss? Okay.
That's...
I tried.
We're alive.
Because I thought I saw that somewhere. Anyway, Google machine failed me there. But he is he's getting a little frustrated. And it sounds like he's saying to the great things of the press that he's enjoying it, but at the same time, I don't know how effective he was today.
Well, I think the Canucks have gotten into his head. He's trying to be a little bit more of a pest as opposed to focusing more on the offensive side. Like he can get through. He still is very dangerous. He did have a few chances there that were really could have been very dangerous, but the Canucks were able to shut him down for the most part. And then when they weren't, Markstrom was right there. But in terms of, yeah, I do think that they're in his head, though. I do think that, like, if they're not in his head, is he bumping into Markstrom the way he did?
Yeah, I mean, that looked like, the guy is losing his focus out there for sure. I mean, you're going to get penalized. I mean, that's just an easy one for the refs, and you know that there's going to be a response to that. And so why do you do it? Well, you're off your game, I think.
Yeah.
And he mentioned it after the game 2 as well, where he said that he got a little too frustrated and got off his game, and they're continuing to be able to get under his skin, whether it's Roussel or Pearson or Loui Ericksson or whoever it is. They're finding a way to get under his skin, and as a Canucks fan, that's fantastic, because that means he's not focusing on the right things.
To go back to the Canucks here for a second, Markstrom, I don't think he was terrible the first 2 games, but today was definitely his best game.
In the first 2 games, he wasn't seeing the puck as well as he can. Today was completely different. I could see in the first period that he was sucking up rebounds. He was kicking them out to the right spots. He was reading the play very well, and it just continued throughout the game. And just if this is the beginning of Markstrom getting back to like the where he was in February and January, that is really good news for the Canucks.
Mm-hmm. The exhibition game, he looked rusty, and that definitely carried forward into the start of game 1. But even after the first goal allowed in game 1, he had to make several 5-alarm saves to keep the Canucks in that game. And from game 2 onward, he's been closer to the usual Markstrom we're used to seeing.
Yep. He was good. And I definitely feel. You definitely feel confident with him in there. He's a brick. He's been a brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
Also, really, Quinn Hughes today, I thought he's another guy that hasn't been bad, but I think he felt more comfortable today. 3 assists. I thought, not earth shattering, but he made the plays that he needed, and great pass to Petey to set up the one-timer, and then Besser scores. So. There you go.
Yeah, I still think he's got another gear too. Like, we haven't really seen him take over a power play. We haven't really seen him skate up the ice and really just take over a game with his skating just yet too. So the fact that he still got three assists today and is still, I don't think, on the top of his game is good. Really good.
Tyler?
Yeah, I nothing much to add on that. Although, if we want to stay on defense, one area of concern for me is how many infractions Tyler Myers is taking. Yep. I mean, it's hard to get mad at a defenseman for being physical and playing aggressive and being involved in the play, but it's a thankless job back there. But he's got to find a way to cut those fouls down, or that's going to be trouble for the Canucks.
One was like hooking or holding, and then one was roughing, and I think two of them were roughing, and he just needs to calm down. Like the one that he took where he landed on, I think it was Kunin, and just punched him in that punched his head. I'm like, that's just dumb. Like, you can't take those penalties, and despite how good the Canucks penalty kills look, you can't. The less times you actually have to go out in the penalty kill, the better. Like, let's calm down.
Yeah.
We're getting some comments in the on the comment board here. It's about Tyler's beard, which is
oh dear. What? I haven't got the comments up, so I don't know.
No, the beard is looking good, bud. Devin has chimed in. He should grow it for 3 months.
Well, I don't have any grays in the beard right now, but every once in a while they do appear, and it probably won't be long before I'm like Sean.
Yeah, embrace the gray. Embrace the gray.
Hashtag embrace the gray. What other concerns do you have heading into tomorrow's game?
How Can they keep it up? That's really what it is at this point. Can they keep it up? The Horvat line isn't necessary. What didn't produce anything offensively, but they were able to control the Kevin Fiala line. And if they can do that, and PD and Besser can still continue to produce, that's fantastic. But I think they need a goal from them, that Horvat line tomorrow.
Tyler?
Yeah, my only concern would be, just a bit of a letdown here after a couple of wins, and especially getting a shutout today. Obviously, they're going to feel very confident about that. Is that going to cause a bit of complacency against a desperate team? We talk about this all the time. It's the old hockey adage that last win is the most difficult one to get in a playoff series. So, the Canucks will have to find another gear and kick it up a little harder here to finish this series off tomorrow night.
Yeah, that it's just overcoming the overconfidence. If there's I'm not saying that they are, but when you're up 2-1, there is a bit of a letdown there, and it'll be interesting to see what other adjustments that are being made. But
I do think that it being a back-to-back game is actually a good thing for the Canucks, and the fact that it's back-to-back, you can't let up. And Travis Reed knows that, and I think he's going to make sure that they know that too. It's not going to be like you get a day off to think about, all right, we're feeling good. It's like they're going to get back. They're going to get back to they're probably already back in the bubble in the hotel, and and Travis Green is making sure that they go through their routine and they get up the next day and it's another game day. There's no sitting back and relaxing. They have a routine and they're going to follow it, and I think it's going to be good. I think that's the blessing of this back-to-back, in my opinion.
Yeah. Is there anything else that in this series that we need to cover?
I don't know. It's happening so fast, Kevin. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of crazy. So Game 4 tomorrow. It's 7:30 Mountain Time.
No, correct. That 8:30 Mountain, 7:30 Pacific. There you go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Brain is all over, but it's the last game. Actually, that reminds me. Did you notice a difference in the ice? Because the Canucks have had the late game twice. Did you notice a difference in the ice?
It's not something I've noticed overly much.
I didn't notice too much. I felt like the Canucks skilled players were able to play with the puck a little bit more, as well as actually Kevin Fiala on the Wild a little more comfortably. But I don't think it's actually that big of a difference going from game to game. I can't remember who tweeted it out, but they talked with one of the players, and I think they talked about how they've made the ice a lot thicker in these arenas to compensate for 3 games a day.
Okay.
Makes sense.
That makes sense. Dan Craig, the Iceman, has always been involved. Is there anything else that we need to talk about that is a big pressing issue that we wanted to talk about?
Just touch very quickly on the other series. Wow, Montreal Canadiens going up 2-1 against Pittsburgh. Penguins are on the brink. Something I didn't imagine. The Oilers being behind 2-1 is less of a surprise to me, although it has been a real treat to see what Connor McDavid's been able to do in postseason play here in his second go at it. I don't know where the Oilers' mindset is at now. I mean, Chicago is beatable, but that experience factor sure looked like it was paying off there late in the game for the Blackhawks in Game 3. And then, of course, the Flames and the Jets tonight. Looking forward to that. It's been a spicy series, and I think it's going to be even spicier.
Yeah, but who do you have? We kind of split on who's going to win tonight. Who do you have on that one tonight?
Well, I think the Jets are going to push this to Game 5. I like the Jets. There's nothing against the Calgary Flames, but Winnipeg's got a pretty grizzled bunch there. I think they'll find a way to punch through.
It'll be interesting to see if any of the either Laine or Scheifele can slide back in. I know they didn't practice this morning, but that doesn't mean anything. there's no what am I trying to say? There's nothing that can stop the teams from just saying they're unfit to play. We don't even know if Gaudette was even that way. Like, even though the Canucks have said that. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we see one or both of Scheifele or Laine tonight. And if that's the case, I could see a big emotional boost from the for the Jets if that happens.
You could just play Laine on the power play. I could see that happening. Like, that's the only shifts that he's able to take, and you just park him in his bumper spot and he takes his one-timers. I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Quick word on the round robin games as well. I know they're not getting nearly as much attention as the qualifying round series. Certainly not from us, anyways. But if you're the Boston Bruins after losing a couple of these games and now have no chance at finishing first in the conference, wonder how they're feeling about that.
Yeah, it's tough. There's a part of me that really wants to have some sympathy for them, but there's another part that just doesn't, because of all the crap that they've done. It's almost like they in some ways deserve the hockey karma, but I do actually legitimately think they have an argument. They finished so far ahead of everybody else, but what were you going to do with the top four? Like, how are you going to? It's such a tough call.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it does show the compromise that had to be made with the format here. I mean, it's, had the final 10 to 12 or whatever games every individual team needed to finish the regular season been played, there would have been movement even at the top of the standings. So you can't just say for sure it would have stayed in the same order as it was at the pause. So, but for Boston, it certainly had the most negative impact with a couple of losses here.
Well, St. Louis isn't going to finish for. I don't know what the score. I'll check the score here, but it looks like St. Louis may not finish first in the West.
Mm-hmm.
So
Boston was in the President's Trophy position, and now they might enter the actual conference quarterfinals not as the number one seed.
To get back to Pittsburgh for a second,
yeah,
are they as good as we think they are?
They're very inconsistent with their defense and their goaltending as well. Like, Matt Murray hasn't played bad, but a couple of the goals were like the game winner last night was not good. Short side, like from an almost impossible angle, and he lets in it short side. That's a bad goal. Offensively, it's hard to touch them at times. But defensively, they haven't been able to find that right group of blue liners in a couple seasons here. So it's the same story for the last couple seasons, in my opinion.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, they're just, there's a little bit of age starting to show there probably from certain guys. But how can you root against or bet against, Crosby and Malkin? Still, it wouldn't surprise me if they come back in this series. I mean, those guys are winners. They know what it takes. Montreal's got that youth movement going, got a great goalie. Certainly prices out goaltending Murray, and that's what's making a difference right now from what I can tell. But this thing's far from over.
Yeah, I do think Pittsburgh wins tomorrow, and I think it's a game 5. Chicago, Edmonton, I don't know if I don't know if I'm just being overtly biased, but I honestly can see Chicago winning game 4.
I could see that. You never know. Like, at this point where it's whoever seems to get control and capitalize on their scoring chances, because there is a lot of them in that series, and whoever can find a way, like, it's just whoever gets the better goaltending will win. But the term better is
not exactly. Yeah. We will end it here because apparently someone has been locked out of the house for some reason. I don't know. I'm not. I'm not. And
it's not Kevin this time.
It's not this time. It's someone else. But we will be We will be back after the Flames Jets game for tonight. Devin, Matt, and I, for sure. I'm not sure if Heidi's going to be there. We'll be recapping that, and then Devin and I will chat about the Leafs and Blue Jackets, with the Leafs are leading 1-0, I believe, as we are speaking.
Yep.
And so we'll talk about that, and then we will be back to recap we'll figure out the schedule tomorrow when we talk about the Canucks and the Wild. It may depend on results and such like that. But how do we follow everyone?
I am Bearded Canuck 03 on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter at TNoble, TNOBLE.
And I am KEVOLE on Twitter. There's Devin, of course, Guard How09, Schneids, SCHNEIDZ, podcast _hockey. Like us on Facebook, the Hockey Podcast. We go live after all the Canucks, and we recap the Canucks, the Flames, and the Leafs. And subscribe on Apple, Google, Spotify, etc., etc. Thanks, everyone, and we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now. There and Zoom. Yep. Okay. Post there. And then stop. And